Today I am talking, well, I'm always talking about women's cricket, but I've got someone who knows even more about women's cricket than me. That is my old friend, Rachel Mitchell. Rachel, great to see you and welcome back.
Thank you very much. Very nice to be here again.
You were one of the very first guests that I had on 98 when it started nearly 6 years ago now. When you came
Really?
down when I was trying to find my feet with the whole thing, and here we are 6 years later.
Do you know, it seems like a lifetime, doesn't it? How much has changed in that time? How women's cricket has grown in that time.
Well, that's a good place to start. So let's wind back to 2009, and England's women won the World Cup, both the 50 over and the T20 version. They then went on to retain the Ashes, but women's cricket wasn't, despite all that success, it wasn't really talked about. But in the last few years, the momentum has shifted, and women's cricket, and probably indeed women's sport as a whole, is much more front and centre. Why do you think that is?
I, Number one, I think resources are all important. I think a lot more investment has gone into the sport. Number two, I think we're all waking up to the fact that women's sport is actually quite a good thing. It doesn't have to compete with men in terms of we don't have to play the same game. It's a different game and it's played really, really well and it's attracting audiences. And we've seen that in the football. You don't watch women's football because it's better, worse than men. It's a different game. And people find things that they want to watch in that game. And I think it's attracting more and more audiences. It's that wasn't there? It was a FIFA, I think, campaign for the women, which was play till they can't look away. And I think this is what's happening now in women's sport. It's okay to have our own sport. It's okay to be competitive in that sport and to play it well, but for different reasons. And I think that's why women's sport is growing in popularity.
It's a good point. And I think where it's moving to the next level, um, engagement is the first point, but I think now as more eyeballs are coming on cricket, let's keep on cricket because that's what
Yeah.
we're here to talk about. But we're starting to see this requirement as opposed to a desire for success. Now, the Women's Ashes is going on currently in Australia, and there were very, very high expectations coming into this.
Mhm.
Um, I think the team themselves sort of buoyed it up, but then you would do every time any Ashes comes around.
Yeah.
If you're taking part in it, you expect to win, but it hasn't quite gone to plan, has it?
Not quite. Not quite. And I think there's a few reasons for that. I mean, first and foremost, in any sport, you're going to get an individual or a team that dominates. For that period of time, they are just going to dominate the sport. And I think that the Australian women's team are that team. And really, it doesn't matter about the infrastructure that we have at home, the individuals who are playing. It is going to take a mammoth effort to beat that Australian women's team at the moment. Now, let's wind back a bit to say, well, how did both teams get to where they are? And I think there is a great infrastructure that's been put in place in England at the moment, particularly with the tier structure, the professional game, the fact that women now can make a career out of cricket. Yeah, we often say that England's about 5, 10 years behind Australian women's cricket. That gap is certainly closing, but it's not closed. We are a long, long way away from that. And part of that is the culture of cricket, I believe. So how do we get to where we are now with the England women's team? Women are being given the opportunity to play, and that's a great thing. They're being paid to play. But sometimes I do question the actual infrastructure that's there. And I'm coming at this as well with my club cricket hat on. Um, are girls encouraged to play cricket often? And are they being encouraged to play competitively? Because I can tell you, having gone over to Australia and spent some time with the clubs over there, cricket is a way of life. It's not a question, am I going to play this weekend? It's where am I going to play this weekend? And if they are not picked for the state side, are they going to play club cricket? And I think in this country, there is a certain, how can I put it? It's not laziness because nobody's lazy in sport, but there's an apathy. And certainly, looking across to men's club cricket, they play far more than the women do and the girls do. And I think that's because there is an appetite to play. We really, really struggle to get girls to play cricket regularly and, as I say, competitively. And then going looking at the England team, well, if they haven't got the competition there domestically to push them on, how are we going to get to that competitive edge that Australia have currently got? The reason why Australia is winning is because, yes, they are agile. Yes, they are athletes. Yes, they have that ability to make those decisions under pressure. And I think those are the sorts of elements that we're lacking at the moment.
Since the Women's T20 World Cup recently, a lot of column inches have been devoted to. I mean, you mentioned the word agility, um, fitness. I don't know what the best way to describe it is, but um, and Alex Hartley has got into trouble recently for saying that she didn't think there was enough fitness in the current England team. I don't think that's necessarily only with England. You look around some of the other world sides, there are players that maybe could be spending a bit more time in the gym, let's say, or taking care of their diet, etc., etc., etc. Is that a fair comment, or is this still the stage we're at that this will all come in the years to come?
Mm. Well, when you started out there, you were almost nervous about saying the word fitness. And when we're talking about a professional environment, that should not be, a difficult word to say. It's an expectation. And I think if you are a professionally paid sports person, fitness is a basic requirement. You couldn't play any other sport, and I'm looking towards football or even netball or hockey without being super fit. And there is something about cricket where we don't ask those sorts of questions. And you and I both know, as human beings, if we've taken a little bit of care and attention on ourselves, if we've looked after our diet, if we're exercising regularly, we are on top of our game. And maybe the question needs to be asked of some of those players. I don't know what their fitness regime is, what they do, but maybe they need to have an honest look at themselves about what they are doing to improve their game. I don't, we were at training last night and I just asked a couple of the girls, what do you think about the comment that Alex Hartley made? Was she correct? 100% yes, said yes. And that's the girls. It's not a criticism of an individual. We are not body shaming. We are saying you are a paid professional athlete and this is the minimum expectation. If we look at, there was, remember, I think it was a few years ago, the Danae van Niekerk was dropped from the South
Yeah,
Africa team for
that's
her
right.
fitness. Australia have said, was it Alana King and Amanda Jade Wellington lost their contract due to fitness? I don't think I've ever heard an England player drop for fitness. And I'm not going to say anything about any individuals and whether they are or not, but it is a basic requirement.
So why do you think they reacted in the way they did, and you know, not giving interviews and sort of going to the papers and getting very alarmed about this talk of fitness or lack of it. When really, I think from what you're saying, it's fair comment.
Yep. Sometimes I wonder about the management around the players, who's advising them, what they're being told. Particularly in the terms of Sophie Eccleston not giving that interview. How did she think that was okay? It's part of your job.
Yeah.
You have to give interviews. And again, it might be naivety. I don't think it is in Sophie Eccleston case. She's been around a while. But I know that some of the younger professionals might not know what their expectation is in terms of speaking to press or the training behind that. Have they been given training behind that? Um, but I do wonder in this particular instance, who's advising players that they can and can't do these things because she should have given the interview.
Yeah. It smacks to me of us. Do you want to use the word complacency or use the word arrogance? That they just sort of feel they're a bit untouchable and can do whatever they want. They can train as much or as little as they
Yeah.
want. And looking at that team, I mean, my observation would not necessarily be about fitness per se, um, but there's a lot of people, there's a lot of players in that England team that have been around for quite a long while now.
Yes. Well, no, but that's fine, isn't it? You want in any team to have that mix of experience, maturity, bringing on the younger players too. And I think it's fine to have that. What I found lacking actually in this particular tour is those experienced players standing up. You want the hero in these situations. You want that player that's going to say, I'm going to win. Now, I used to be a huge fan of Catherine Brunt because she brought the play to the field. She brought that edge. And what I've actually found about this England team is it's almost like they've played the game on mute. I know that's like a really
Yeah,
sort of
no, I get
strange thing
it.
to say, but I found myself drifting to the Australian team, not just because of their tactical, all of their ability, their agility, obviously, um, but they're just a lot more fun to be around. Um, and again, I'm not digging out any female here on their personality. Um, but where are, of those experienced players, where are they? Where have they been? Has anybody sort of stood up and taken the game on? Now, Nat Brunt is obviously somebody that we all look to as having won many a game for England. Is she distracted by the fact that she's got a baby on the way who should be due soonish? Now that's new territory, I think, for women's sport, isn't it? Where she's playing international level and she's got a baby on the way. I don't know of many examples where this has happened before. Is that why she's distracted? She hasn't really put the runs on the board. I don't know. Um, but certainly yeah, there doesn't seem to be this excitement in the team at the moment. Arrogance, I don't know about. I can't speak about that. But going back to what I was saying before, it's competition. Are they really? Is there a girl on their shoulder saying, I want your spot? And are they having to really, really compete to keep that? I'm not sure there is.
No, and I think that's it comes back to that thing the word I was probably trying to find was complacency above everything else, that people just think that they're on the team sheet regardless of whatever else. Um, but I mean, let's come to a more closer level of discussion. So let's move away from England. Let's just talk about what's going on. There's a lot going on domestically with women and girls cricket. Now, during my tenure at Billericay, one of the proudest things I did was to encourage the development alongside you with women's and girls cricket, which is flourishing. And congratulations, you have got a load of personalities in that team.
We do, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Well, yes, that's it. Actually, but I love that.
Yeah,
That's what I encourage because, we don't want. No, we do want girls who are nice, but we also want to bring, what do you say, the spice.
yes,
This is this is
absolutely.
this is
Yes,
what we want. We want those personalities in cricket. Um, it's always for me. I was never a cricketer. It's my daughter and my nephews who play the cricket, so that's been my involvement. Um, but I've seen other sports played, netball, football with girls, and there's just a lot more spice there, a lot more personalities, and cricket's always felt like just such a safe space, which is great because half of my job is trying to improve the standard of women and girls cricket. The other half, which is probably more important to me, is getting girls to play sport. And as long as I can keep those two things going, and trust me, we have a million personalities across Billericay and across all abilities. And that's often, I think, a cultural thing as well. So if the people at the top are saying it's all right to have a laugh, it's all right to muck about, I think it does bring the players on.
Yeah, yeah. Tell Tilly Callahan I'm still waiting for her to come on this show, despite her
Oh, yeah,
promises and
yeah.
all the
No,
chippy comments.
just keep asking, keep asking. You never know.
So a lot of noise is being made about the county scene. So we've had a bit of a
Mm,
restructure in women's cricket, and counties being awarded tier two, in inverted commas, status.
yeah,
Essex have got a tier one um, award, which is
yeah.
great. And that side to me looks very, very exciting. There's a lot of top players and they've attracted people in to make it really, really good. But um, it's not all good news, this tier one and tier two county setup, is it?
I think on the positive front, living in Essex, and regularly going down to the county ground, I am really excited about watching the team play. A lot of the players thankfully came across from what was Sunrisers, the regional team, and they were in a great run of form. So they have recently won the Rachel Hayhoe Flint Trophy, which was exceptional. And the players there, people like Cordelia Griffith were in an absolute supreme run of form. She was scoring runs for fun towards the end of that season. So coming across to Essex is brilliant for us as a county. I'm very, very excited to watch that. What I'm also excited about is that team being within a professional environment of Essex. So how's it going to work with them sort of standing side by side with the men? How are they going to benefit from that? What information is going to be passed between the male and the female team? These are the sorts of things that I think are really, really exciting for the women's game going forward. What I think is going to be a challenge from a recreational club level is it's fine here in Essex because it's tier one, it's the professional game. But we are finding that we are losing a number of our players to other counties now. So they're having to go to play in Kent or our closest other one, Middlesex. So they are tier two teams. Now, we received the schedules now for the tier two games, and there's lots of them, and that is brilliant because women are getting to play more cricket. The
Is
only
this
issue being,
multi-format stuff?
yes, it is. So it's the T20, and it's the one day. There's also a kind of like an FA Cup style knockout tournament being played as well. Actually, one of the first draws is Kent versus Middlesex
Oh,
in the knockout, so that is going to be one to watch, I feel. What I think is going to be difficult to navigate through, and I'm talking with my club cricket hat on here. Disappointingly, many of the tier two games have been scheduled for a Sunday. And I say disappointingly because traditionally women's club cricket have been played on a Sunday. So we are going to lose many of our better players to the tier two games. So previously, those girls might have played under 18 cricket somewhere or women's cricket somewhere on a Saturday and then played club cricket on a Sunday. I believe that the ECB requested the tier two counties to schedule their matches on a Saturday, but this has been ignored, unfortunately. And so women, I think, again, going back to why the reasons that the England team aren't as competitive as the Australians. So if you're going to say that you're going to play tier two cricket on a Sunday, when are you going to play your club cricket? When are you going to get into that run of form? When are you going to get some time out in the middle? Where are you going to take risks? Where are you going to try new things? Looking at, for instance, the Kent squad, I haven't seen the Middlesex squad. There's 20 women on the Kent squad. They're not all going to get a game.
hmm.
So are they going to say, oh, it's okay, then I'll go and play club cricket? I don't think they are. I think they're just going to say, well, I won't bother. I'll go to Blue Water on Sunday. Um, and so I think it's disappointing that the schedules haven't been worked out as well as they could have been to help that domestic grassroots cricket feed the tier system.
this is becoming a perennial problem in English cricket, isn't it? The scheduling. I mean, we've seen with the
Yeah.
arrival of the hundred, and not to decry the hundred because it has had a lot of benefits, but the fact that everything else had to fit in around it, and there wasn't supposedly any thinking with Red Bull shoved to the extremes of the
Yes.
English season. Um, and now we're seeing a kind of a continuation of that short-sightedness with women's cricket. What surely at some point we need to have someone just grab this by the scruff of the neck for the reasons you've just talked about, but
Mm.
also, for the viewing public, for the people that want to go and watch this, or, memberships. Everyone is struggling with the cost of living and they want value for money. If you're going to be buying a county membership, you don't necessarily want to be sat in the freezing cold at the beginning of April watching Red Bull because that's the only time you can watch it, or the back end of September.
Mm.
Um, why is no one thinking about this in a more proactive way?
I think in women's cricket we're trying to boil the ocean. We're trying to cover every single base, and I think that trying to take care of those top levels has been very important, um, but it hasn't quite filtered back down to grassroots yet. We talk a good game, I think, of saying, oh, people want to watch women's sport, people want to. Well, it all starts at grassroots. And I do feel as though women's club cricket, we're not coming together as a group. I think we would serve women's cricket far better if we did come together as a group of clubs, a large group of clubs, almost like a national group of women's club cricket, and take our views to the ECB, because I think when you've got lots and lots of counties with different needs, almost different, in the southeast we have an awful lot of women. I say an awful lot, it's fantastic, a great number of women playing cricket. I'm not sure those numbers are there in, say, Durham or say Manchester. I don't know. There doesn't seem to be that population there. So I think if we all came together and spoke to the ECB about our concerns, but those sorts of things aren't happening. I also think as well that people at county level are making these decisions, on their own, about without taking into the consideration women's club cricket. Um, there is, of course, this huge argument. We get it at Billericay. We haven't got enough pitches. We so from my point of view, I'm going out there being a bit more creative and finding pitches. I've said things like, okay, well, shall the women play on a Saturday then? Questioning why don't women play on a Saturday? Why can't we have a pitch on the Saturday? And I find that half of my job, it's not a job, but it's a voluntary role, is to just keep asking these questions. Why have we done it that way for so long? One thing that we have a desire to do at Billericay is again to play a men's game and a women's game on the same day on a Saturday, because we find that we don't even socialise. The men's team and the women's team never do anything together because we're playing different times. We're never at the club at the same time. So hey, this is an interesting idea. Why don't we all play on a Saturday? It's about thinking creatively in this space. And what's disappointing to me is that the tier two and tier three counties just haven't thought creatively in this space.
Yeah, I know to my cost about being too creative and trying to be too ambitious, but that's for another day. Do you get? I mean, it's a good idea to play alongside the men, but do groundsmen sort of get in the way of that discussion by saying, I mean, why not have one game or two games on the same day? Have two games on one pitch, two games on another pitch. Um, what are the barriers to entry on that?
I don't think there are any. There aren't. The groundsmen are, in my experience, as accommodating as they can be. They are always willing to get a game on. That's what groundsmen do. They want to get a game on. And I know, for instance, at the county ground this year there are double headers.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah.
so that's the first time that's happened, and very, very pleasing to see. I think a lot of the time it's late. No, I don't like using the word lazy. It's not lazy. It's the way things have always been done. Cricket is absolutely steeped in tradition. This is the way we've done it. Therefore, it's easy. Let's just roll it over and roll it over. And I think part of my role is just, having not come from a background of cricket, is just to keep questioning why. And most of the time, there's a really, really good answer, but I'm finding more and more that it's because no one's thought about it.
Yeah. It's resistance to change, but also an inability to look at, maybe what you were doing wasn't the best way. There are better
Mm.
ways to do it.
Yeah,
And
but all credit to Billericay. You know this. They are a very forward-thinking cricket club. Whatever they can do to try and get ahead of the game, to try and be as commercial as they can. They explore every single avenue, and I am, forever grateful for them allowing us to take a huge amount of space at the club. They have been so accommodating, and I don't think that's the case at every club.
okay, let's end on a positive note. So, what are you looking forward to from the 2025 season?
I am looking forward to, well, good weather. I really, really need some sun. I fingers crossed, I'm looking forward to some good weather. I am looking forward to our team progressing. So we've now got a first team and a second team women's team. We've got some exciting players coming through, much like the Essex professional team. Watching those younger players develop is what I'm here for. So I'm really, really looking forward to our first and second team playing. Our second team play in the Essex Prem League, and our first team play in the Southern Prem League. Watching players thrive and develop in both of those environments is what I'm looking forward to.
Fantastic. Yeah, I think we could all do with a bit of sunshine.
Yeah.
I've got a feeling it is going to be a cracking summer. The sun's going to come out at the end of March. We're going to have heat wave conditions all the way through, and then at the end of September, the rain will start again. So it's all going to
Yeah.
be fine. Don't you worry about
Yeah, yeah. I love that. It's optimism in cricket, isn't it? It's what we all love.
that. Yeah, it's like when you're sat in a pavilion and it's teeming down, and then someone says, "Look, there's a bit of blue sky over there."
Yeah.
You cling to the hope.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah,
Rachel,
that's it.
great to catch up. Always good to see you. And don't leave it 6 years until you come on the next time.
No, no, just fire over some questions anytime. I'm happy to answer.